Like Dee said, my name's Laura Nows. Uh, I've been in banking for over 40 years. I know I was a baby when I started. You don't have to ask that. Um, Back in the day, probably the worst thing that you had to deal with fraud was maybe a forged check or a forged endorsement on a check, and that's about as much as you had to worry about. So, boy, have things changed in the last 40 years. We've gone to having various types of scams that we have to identify, various methods for them to take your money, including and using AI and all this other kind of stuff. So hopefully, I don't want to scare you, but you just need to have the knowledge, be on your guard, and we'll hopefully be able to recognize and spot some of these things before you lose any money. All right, so we're going to focus on financial fraud. So what is financial fraud but the intentional deception for financial gain? So someone's going to deceive you in order to get your money. So a little statistics on why this is so relevant here. So according to this study that I printed out here, if anybody wants to read 26 pages, but the Common Sense Institute projected losses from financial fraud just in Iowa for 2025 to be $93 million in direct reported losses and an estimated 93 million to 573 million in direct unreported losses. In 2024, almost 14,000 Iowans were impacted by financial fraud. And the key findings of that are the average loss per fraud case was highest for the ages of 60 to 69 at 4,880, followed by 3,924 for ages 50 to 59, and a little less for ages 40 to 49. Imposter scams, which include grandparent scams and fake distress scams, were the most common scams in Iowa, with over 4,000 reported cases in 2024, followed by identity fraud and ATM fraud. And according to the FTC, the total financial loss from fraud was 52 million statewide in 2024, up 204% since 2020, since COVID. That is a massive gain. So we're going to just go over the common types of financial fraud that we see. There is identity theft, which would include someone stealing your social security number, birth date, maybe applying for a credit card, maybe opening a bank account, depositing fraudulent checks. There is debit and credit card fraud, which is very common, where someone just gets a hold of your debit card number and information and buys stuff with it. Business email compromise. This is one that probably in the last year I've seen 2 cases of not Muscatine business, but our customers being used to commit or to money launder through their accounts that originated with the business email compromise. Example of this would be I'm a company and I purchase products from another company. An imposter poses as someone from the company that I make purchases through, emails me, tells me, hey, our instructions have changed for where you need to send the money for your payments. These are the new instructions, the new bank account number. So I, not knowing, because it looks like a legitimate email from the company that I always pay, go ahead and change how I make the payments, and it ends up going into a Money Mules account, and then they transfer it to somebody else. So we've seen that a couple times here. Online banking fraud, where someone either hacks in or tricks you into giving them your login credentials, and then they're able to move money. Some scam techniques watched for: phishing and vishing. Phishing would be fraudulent emails or text messages that trick you into revealing sensitive information. Vishing is voice calls, so someone calls you to deceive you into providing personal information. A lot of times scammers will impersonate legitimate organizations or government. agencies. One that is the most common one in Iowa we talked about is the grandparent scam, also a fake distress scam. It's kind of combined. And I don't want to just say it could be grandparents, it could also be aunts, uncles, friends, any loved one. So I think probably most of you heard it before, but it involves impersonation of a grandchild needing urgent money. They request it to be secret and quick. Send them a wire, send them a gift card, something like that. I personally know my mother-in-law has gotten 2 calls. One a few years ago where it was my son that supposedly called her. She did not fall for it. She didn't really think it sounded like him and just hung up. She got one recently, the day that we were leaving on vacation, from an impersonator. In 5 years, her cognitive ability has gone down enough that she was very upset and thought it was real, but didn't know what to do. Luckily, she was on her way out the door to go to a doctor's appointment and called my brother-in-law. In the meantime, he says, well, have you called Jeff to make sure that it's him? So they're very good at tricking you into believing that it's your grandson. Hi, Grandma. How are you? This is your grandson. And then they'll say, oh, is this Jeff? Yes, it's Jeff. I haven't talked to you for a while. That kind of thing. I'm in need of money. I had a car accident. I hurt somebody and I have to pay the hospital bill or they're going to put me in jail. Don't tell mom and dad I was drinking. I'd be really embarrassed. Can you keep it between us? So that's the kind of thing that they'll work on. You know, you love your grandkids, you love your kids, you want to help them out. They're in trouble. You want to be the one that can save the day. Work from home scams. Probably most of this room probably wouldn't necessarily be subject to this, but the knowledge is power, and share this with anyone that you think would like to work from home or has been looking for jobs. There's fake job offers, usually include upfront fees. You send them money, or maybe they will send you money that you deposited, but you're supposed to send some of this money on to something else to purchase supplies or something like that. The checks that you deposit are going to be counterfeit and no good. Oftentimes they can be found on social media or even regular job boards like Indeed or LinkedIn. They use the victims to launder money. They use them as money mules. They can and part of the business email compromise scam is something like this. Well, they'll deposit money into your account, but then you use that money to make purchases from invoices that is fake companies. So they're just using your own personal account to launder money through. So anytime a company is going to want to use your personal account to do business, is a big red flag. Stolen and counterfeit checks, boy, they've made a comeback. Mail theft, where you've mailed a payment to your credit card company and somehow that check gets stolen, or any other type of payment check that you've mailed out. People can steal those checks within the mail system. They take those checks. They are now able to buy check printing stuff that makes an exact replica of what your check looks like. They can use AI or whatever to Photoshop a signature that looks just like your signature. So those kind of things are on the rise too. A check, like especially with a job scam, that has been a check that has been stolen and created to look like another check. But you deposit that money and it comes back because the bank says no, that the account isn't legit. We've already been made aware that they're stolen checks. The customer is going to be responsible for any funds that they've deposited that the check comes back for. So the best thing is if you can avoid writing a check at all, do an electronic payment, or use, like the bank has a bill pay product through our online banking that another company is going to issue the check and mail it. So no one ever gets your account number because it's a separate account number that they use for the bill pay checks. It's very scary, yeah. Crypto payment scams, they're on the rise as well. So a lot of the, the scam types that we had, the grandparent scams, investment scams, things like that, they demand crypto payments. Fake investments, there's a scam called pig butchering where you hear of a really good investment and you put your money into it and you buy crypto and you get statements or something that shows that you're getting all these big returns. So you keep putting more money into it. Eventually they're going to cut you off and steal all that crypto from you. They've just led you on until you gained your trust, you thought you were making money, and then all of a sudden you find out that it's not there anymore. Ransom scams, I haven't really heard too much about that around here, but romance scams is another big one, unfortunately. And a lot of times that's going to prey on people who are lonely, widowers, people maybe who just lost their husband. I swear that they probably go through obituaries and look for people. These are very hard because they are very patient. They will develop a relationship with you online, text messages. I've had women who think they're engaged to someone who lives overseas and they have to send them money in order for them to come back here to get married and buy a house. I've had gentlemen that are sending money to their girlfriends because they're starting a business in another state and they're going to go over there and help them. I've had them develop a relationship where the woman's father is going to die and he's going to leave all the inheritance to the fiance because of the woman can't get the money or she'll have to pay it out in legal fees or some other thing. What they must have a script. If you say this, I'm going to go to this, but those are so very hard because they build a relationship. They take their time over months. And then suddenly they come in to our bank with a check that they're supposed to deposit and then take money out or just, maybe they've had their retirement fund send a deposit. They're supposed to take out $10,000 cash and send overseas or send by a wire or send by crypto. And they don't believe us when we tell them this is a scam. You are being scammed. No, this is my fiance. I know what I'm doing. And unfortunately, they will send them all the money they have. If they do it by crypto payments, once they're sent out, they are irreversible, basically, and untraceable. That's why here at the bank, we will not send a wire anymore to a crypto company because we cannot tell the difference between a legitimate crypto investment and a scam. I would say most of the ones that we've seen are scams when people are trying to send crypto out. There is new Iowa law that requires for fraudulent transactions processed by a cryptocurrency ATM. So if you don't know this, there are ATMs where you can insert money and purchase crypto. And that's how a lot of these scams work. Once you've done that, you get a series of numbers, an account number, and the scammer will ask you for those numbers. But once you give them those numbers, they're able to get that money and you'll never see it. We were at a meeting where the Iowa Attorney General had contacted people who had used the crypto ATMs, and I believe he said over 90% of them admitted that it ended up being a fraud. So I would just say don't do anything with crypto. But like I said, there is a new Iowa law to help protect people from scams for crypto, which includes reporting. So if you figure out within 90 days that what you sent was fraud, you have to alert the authorities and the operator of the ATM machine that accepts the crypto. Also, the operators of that crypto machine has to post warnings about fraudulent transactions and what to do if you've been scammed. Okay, warning signs of a scam. Urgency and secrecy. You have to send me this money today. Don't tell my parents. Don't tell the bank why you're taking this money out. We're investigating an officer of the bank. Too good to be true promises. Hey, you've just won the lottery. You need to send us money for taxes and legal fees. Poor grammar, poor spelling in emails and text messages. The unusual payment methods, gift cards, wire transfer, gold. They will actually have you buy gold and send a courier to pick it up. Send cash in the mail or ship it. And again, crypto. So anytime someone wants you to send them money this way, it's a big red flag because almost certainly is a scam. No legitimate business or government agency will ever demand that you send money in these methods. Lies that scammers tell. Number one, someone is using your accounts. So scammers can be claimed to be from the bank or a well-known company like Amazon, and they're contacting you to let you know that they've seen suspicious activity on your account. After that point, they'll try and get your information from you. Line number two, your information is being used to commit crimes. I've seen this one before too. Scammers tend to be a government officer warning that your social security number or other information is being used to commit a crime, such as drug smuggling or money laundering. And again, they'll demand payment to help you out of that situation. Line number three, I've seen this one. There's a security problem with your computer. The scammer starts with a fake on-screen security alert that looks like it's from Microsoft or Apple with a phone number to call. And if you call, they say that your online accounts have been hacked, then they'll end up transferring you to somewhere else. And then maybe you'll get an FBI agent on the phone that says, hey, we can catch these criminals if you send a wire to this location, and then we'll pick them up when they go pick up the money. Literally had that happen, but we caught it before they sent money out. But I have seen those Microsoft pop-ups. You call the number, it's not Microsoft on that phone number on the other line. It's a scammer. So how to protect yourself? Use strong passwords and two-factor authentication. That means more than one step is needed to log into your online banking. Like you have your username and a password. Might also have a challenge question or a picture image or a token authentication on your phone, or they send you a text message. Verify before sending any money. They try to make you do things quickly so you don't have time to think about them. So take a few moments and was it a friend that called you and needed money? I had a case where our church secretary got an email from the pastor wanting our email list of all of our church people, and she sent it was a scammer, and then they sent emails out to certain church people that, can you help me out and go buy a gift card and call this number with it? Can you please keep that a secret? I think we had one person fall for that. We won't name names on that. Don't click on suspicious links. Monitor your account regularly through like online banking, or if you don't have the online banking, which I really recommend that you use. Just make sure you're monitoring your statements when they call, when they come in the mail. Don't trust unexpected checks, especially if they are asking you to send money back. Sell something on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, and they'll send you a check. I accidentally sent you too much. Can you send me some back? You can just wire it, or you can mail me a check, or give me your account information, or Venmo me, or whatever. By the time that original check is deposited and processed and then caught at the other end and returned to the bank, you're out of the money. Don't move money to protect it. They'll say, oh, they're investigating an officer of the bank. They're investigating something you need to move the money out of your account to protect it. Go buy gold, go buy crypto. Go buy gold, we'll come and pick it up and keep it safe for you. Uh, that is always a scam. Never send crypto to strangers. Research job offers carefully. Block unwanted calls. So if you're starting to get calls from people you don't know, keep blocking them. You can change your settings in your phone to block anybody that isn't in your contact list. I would recommend that. Add a trusted contact to bank and investments accounts. So that is somewhat new. What you can do is if you name a trusted contact at the bank, what that person is, they can't transact any business for you. They can't get into your account. They can't look at your information. That is all still private. What it can mean is if grandma comes into the bank and she's acting confused and she wants to take a large sum of money out of the account, you can call this trusted contact to say, do you think everything is okay with grandma? She seemed very confused. Or even my Aunt Josie comes into the bank. She hasn't been eating right. She looks very frail. And then maybe her care isn't what it should be. You can call a trusted contact. You say, is her health okay? Is there anybody that you can get a hold of that can look after her and see what's going on with her? Can you call them and say, do you know if she has a power of attorney or somebody that can look at her financial situation and see what's going on? So it's not somebody that, we're going to give them all the information, but it's just somebody that point of reference of a contact. If we have concerns that maybe you're being scammed or maybe there's something wrong with your health or mental state, that we can contact. So what to do if you're a victim? Report it to your bank. The FTC, Federal Trade Commission, the police. You might need to freeze your accounts. Contact the credit bureau to freeze reports. You can do this before you're a victim, and I would recommend it. If you don't think you're going to be applying for credit anywhere anytime soon, go ahead and place a credit freeze on your credit report. That way nobody can, if somebody's applying for a loan in your name, that institution that pulls a credit report will not be able to access that information. If you do get some text messages or emails and are victim of a scam, save all those communications. Change your passwords to everything. Your online banking, your email, your Outlook passwords, all those. Report job scams to the job boards where they were originally posted. Don't try to recover crypto losses with more payments. If I buy more, it'll make up for it because I'll make more money. You better cut your losses. Here are some, and I've got these at the back to places that you can contact: the FTC, identitytheft.gov, the credit bureau phone numbers. Get your annual creditreport.com for free. Contact local law enforcement, the Iowa Attorney General, and check your insurance homeowners policy to see if there's a clause in there that covers identity theft to recoup some losses there. Cost of financial fraud, compromises. There's so many things that it can affect. It can affect, loss of actual property and money. Productivity, the time and energy that you spend dealing with it might take you away from your work, cause absenteeism, affects your quality of life. It can lead to long-term lifestyle changes, reduce financial stability, inability to pay basic living expenses, loss of trust in institutions and people. Our public services, government, and public sector resources are consumed during the investigations. Mental health costs, it can severely affect your psychological well-being. Victims of fraud will often report depression, anxiety, shame, and distress. Lead to long-term emotional trauma. Medical costs, all that stress on your body is not good. It can lead to stress, anxiety, increasing your doctor visits, medication use, panic attacks, and the cost in our judicial system of, investigating and prosecuting these cases.
Good morning.
Morning.
That was, I'm going to tell you some of the information I'm going to have is going to be somewhat similar. I guess I'm going to have probably more of the criminal story side of a lot of these frauds because they do happen here in Muscatine and we've seen a lot of them. So, Detective Haley Polito is another detective that's in my office. She couldn't be here this morning. If you want to come back for another round this afternoon, she's going to join me this afternoon. So we have 2 investigators at our office. I am the supervisor for the investigations division at the sheriff's office. So we each have our own caseload. So she would have more insight on some of these cases as she was the one who personally dealt with them, as where I would have more personal insight with ones that I investigated. So we talked about fraud earlier. It's wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. Mail fraud, as was said earlier, if you don't have to put anything in the mail, don't put it in the mail. What we've seen, it can happen in town, but there's a lot less traffic, whether it be vehicle or foot traffic in town, a lot more. Out in the county where our main jurisdiction is, you've got gravel roads, you've got miles where nobody's going to see anything. There will be people that drive around and just grab mail out of the mailbox. That's all they do. And I want you to understand that these people that, whether it be mail fraud, internet fraud, any kind of fraud, theft, the majority of these people, that's their job. That's how they get paid. They don't go to an 8, 9 to 5 job and get a paycheck and pay taxes. They go through your mailbox. They try and hack your stuff. They try and call and scam you. That is how they get paid. That is their job. So mail fraud, we had one a couple years ago. It was a donation check. The organization called and said, hey, our check didn't make it. I just looked at our bank account. Check had been washed. You mentioned that earlier. There's essentially a way to wash a check. They can leave everything else on it except for the pay to, the pay amount, the date. They'll leave your legitimate signature on there. They'll remake the whole check, and it's a legitimate check. It's got the routing number, the bank account number, the check number. So there is a way to do that. Just recently, there was a lady in the northeast corner of the county. She had a check that she sent to Pennsylvania. It was a credit card payment. She sent it out there. A couple weeks later, she looks at her bank account and notices that this check that she had written was for $3,000. Well, she'd made it out for I think it was $160 something for her credit card payment. I'm currently in the process of trying to obtain bank account information. That check was deposited into a bank account in Pennsylvania. So I'm working with the bank where the check was deposited out there, trying to get video, any information that I can get to try and tie back to that subject. So if you don't have to put anything in the mail, don't put it in the mail. This lady that I was just talking about, she actually took hers to the post office. So part of what I also have to solve is, how did that check get intercepted? Was it intercepted at the post office? Was it intercepted at a USPS distribution center? Was it intercepted at the credit card company where the payments are taken in? I don't know if I'll ever be able to track that back. More than likely, it's a ring of people. There's usually more than one person involved in this type of stuff. Internet fraud, most common way of committing internet fraud is data breaches, as we talked about, email account compromise and phishing. Healthcare fraud. Healthcare fraud happens when an individual, insurance provider, or medical office misuses insurance information for their own personal gain. Debit credit card fraud. This can happen when your card number or your physical information is stolen. We had a gentleman a couple years ago out in the county, got a notice that he was not paying his credit card bill. He didn't understand because he hadn't opened this credit card. Essentially what we did is we tracked this back. One of our detectives tracked the payments on it. There were purchases from eBay this ended up being over $100,000. A lot of it was high-end electronics, Apple iPads, MacBooks, iPhones. There was some Home Depot purchases from a Home Depot out in Pennsylvania. So we were able to track that back, get a photo of a possible suspect using the card for the transaction at the Home Depot. Through all of this, we ended up getting the FBI involved. Typically, when it comes to identity theft, fraudulent practices, things of that nature that we can charge at the state level. Depending on the level of the crime is going to dictate how far we can go with an investigation. There's sometimes that we just don't have that reach, and it may not reach the threshold of being something that the federal government wants to investigate. In this case, it was over 6 digits. We were able to get the federal government involved. This was tracked back to essentially, I want to say, a fencing operation where this stuff was being purchased, more than likely being sold at a fraction of the cost to an end person who was turning around and selling it for full price. Everybody on that end was making a profit, and this guy was out money. And that happened here in Muscatine. Essentially, credit card was applied for and obtained in this subject's name because their identity had been stolen. During the search warrant out on the East Coast, our victim's name was found, the credit card that had been applied for was found inside the residence. Doesn't always happen like that. Trust me. Some of these investigations are far reaching. Some of them can be solved. There's other ones that it doesn't happen. So bank account fraud. Bank account fraud is when a person obtains your personal bank account information. We talked about that. We talked about check washing. It's a form of check fraud where criminals steal checks, often from the mailboxes, and use chemicals or other methods to alter the payee and the amounts, allowing them to deposit the check for their own benefit. This activity can lead to significant financial losses for the victims. Again, if you're going to pay something, pay it through in person or through some sort of a payment system electronically. While the internet and accessing things electronically can be scary, as was talked about earlier, there are a lot of things that have been set up to protect the consumer. So if you can do it that way, I would suggest that. So if you are using a mailbox, keep it locked. Again, if you can, take it and deliver it in person. That's the best option. Again, there's nothing foolproof about this. There's always a possibility that something bad can happen, whether you're doing it through the mail, in person, or electronically. Again, monitor your bank statements, cancel checks, consider alternative payments such as electronic payments. Skimming, so been widely popular. It's technology. Technology has gone. Look at the size of phones, other things. The farther we progress, the smaller the devices get, and that has to go with stealing your information. So skimming occurs when devices are illegally installed inside ATMs, point of sale terminals, or fuel pumps to capture your card data and record your PIN entries. That information is then obtained by the criminals or the fraudsters, and that data is used to create fake payment cards and then make unauthorized purchases or steal victims' accounts. It's estimated that skimming costs financial institutions and consumers more than $1 billion each year. Fuel pump skimmers are usually attached to the internal wiring of the machine and aren't visible to the customer. The devices store data to be downloaded or wirelessly transferred later. So choose a fuel pump that's closer to the building. If there's likelihood there's cameras on it, there's a likelihood that person that's trying to install those are not going to go that close to the building. Most criminals are not dumb. There are dumb criminals. Okay. People that are involved in this have some sense to them. So when they're going to these places, where am I going to install these skimmers at? They're looking for cameras. They're looking, how easily viewable am I when I'm trying to do this? So choose a pump that's close to store and direct view of the tenant. Look for seal tape on the pumps. I believe it is law now, and I'm not exactly sure what the code would be, but those pumps have to be inspected every so often, and they have to be sealed with essentially an evidence tamper-proof type tape. So if that tape is broken, you should see it right when you're looking at the fuel pump. There should be a piece of tape over that door where the payment system is. If that is broken or looks tampered with, go inside, go pay inside, go talk to the attendant, alert them to the fact that that tape looks tampered with. Run your debit card, as you said, as a credit card. You don't have to put your PIN number in. If it's not an option, make sure you're covering the keypad when you enter your PIN. Consider paying inside with the attendant, and again, use tap to pay. So these are what some of the skimming devices look like. We've all seen these at stores, the ATMs. They're essentially just a slide over cover that they put. They can they can record your pin strokes when you put those in. Some of the ATM ones have a hidden camera in them that they put up above so they can see the keypad. And then you have the skimmer attached as well. What will happen is that device has essentially a Bluetooth connection to the fraudster. They can go up and they can transact all that information through Bluetooth. Bitcoin, I'm going to tell you, I'm not well versed in Bitcoin. We have had some scams here in town. I will say that there is a way to start tracking Bitcoin if we get the information in enough time. We don't do that locally. We've got an agency that we can work with that can start transacting that and following it. We do have to have the receipt. My opinion is based on what was said earlier. If you're not involved in Bitcoin, don't pay in Bitcoin. If you know nothing about it, don't try and get involved in it. I believe it is very complex. I believe that a lot of the stuff that's out there is used for scamming. We talked about the amount of scams. 90% of the cryptocurrency transactions in the state of Iowa are scams. I believe they're trying to get legislation passed to be able to remove. So there will be none of these cryptocurrency ATMs in the state of Iowa. If you invested early in cryptocurrency, in a Bitcoin, you probably wouldn't be here. You're probably living somewhere very exotic at this point. So unless you know what you're doing, I would say get involved if that's something that you want to do as far as investing. But if somebody hits you up and asks for a Bitcoin payment and you don't know what it is, don't engage in it. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XPR, Doge. This was made a couple months ago. I'm sure that numbers went up, but there's currently over 17,000 cryptocurrencies. So at what point they cap it, I don't know. It's a money thing. So impersonating or phishing scams. If Donald Trump calls you and says, "Hey, I need $1 million. I'm broke." I will tell you, with all of these scams, be reasonable, think reasonable, and always verify. Okay? Verify. Somebody calls you and says, "This is so-and-so," and you haven't heard from them in 15 years, track them down. Hey, is this you? Okay, there's ways to do that. Don't fall for it. Giveaway scams, we talked about that. They impersonate celebrities or legitimate companies on social media promising, again, free Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies in exchange for an upfront fee or a verification fee. Emails and messages with malicious links to fake websites. They're going to steal your information. Romance scams. We had a lady, I know a lady personally that fell to a romance scam here in town, lost tens of thousands of dollars to a romance scam. It happens, it's here. Keep track of your family members. If you've got a family member that's a widow, make sure there's somebody that is keeping in contact with those people. Blackmail and extortion. There's sextortion. People say, "Hey, I've got nude or explicit photos of you. If you don't send me $5,000, I'm going to send these to all your family and friends, and the public's going to see them." Scare tactics are the biggest thing that they're going to go for. Unfortunately, with these fraudsters, they prey on the elderly, the older people in our society. They find it's easier to scare them that way, confuse them, make them think that something's going on. So they'll fall easier to that scam. Ransomware attacks. Again, we talked about that. Malware on your computer. I had a guy come in a couple months ago, said that he got this pop-ups that the federal government found child porn on his computer. He needed to go to or call a phone number. So he called the phone number and they instructed him to go to Hibbett Sports in Muscatine and get a $500 gift card. Okay.
Sorry.
Does that sound reasonable to anybody here?
No.
Okay. Think, does this sound right? Just stop, just take 5 seconds. If you think something is wrong and it doesn't sound reasonable, take 5 seconds. hang up the phone, because the last thing that these people want you to do is hang up the phone. Okay? If you don't think it's right, hang up the phone, call somebody that you know, say, hey, what does this sound like? Get a second opinion. As I said earlier, law enforcement scams claim there's an arrest warrant, threaten to arrest you if you don't pay. They'll direct you to buy a prepaid gift card. Again, they'll want you to stay on the phone. I know there are retailers that have gone through training with their employees where they are to recognize, pay attention to their customers. If somebody's in there and they're on the phone and they're trying to buy $5,000 in gift cards, that retailer is supposed to alert law enforcement, because these fraudsters will try and keep you on the phone. That's how they try and push this to getting done. We talked about AI. AI is just like anything. AI can be great and AI can destroy things. I mean, that's just where we're at with it. The voice, to be able to take just a 5-second video from your Facebook page. We all post things to social media, right? If you get it, not all of us. No? Shucks. I was close. You post just a small snippet, they're able to get that. They can manipulate it into so many different things: photos, videos, voices. So just be careful what you're putting out there. Fraud prevention. Always verify the authenticity of requests. Avoid clicking on suspicious links and be cautious of deals that may seem too good to be true. Don't give out your personal information unless you initiated the contact. That is, you called the credit company, you called the bank, you know that you're talking to somebody that a phone number that you called and you know is legitimate to you. Legitimate organizations won't call or email you to ask you for this information. Before making a purchase or entering information on a website, verify the company's legitimacy by checking with consumer protection agencies like the Better Business Bureau or your state's consumer protection agency. It seems like our phones are listening to us, right? We'll be talking about something, then you open Facebook, you open Google, and there's an ad right there. Man, I was just talking about buying that. Guess what? They want you to buy that. The thing to be careful of is where you're buying that item from. There are companies, mainly overseas, that are trying to sell things at a cheaper price. You're going to see these websites. There are some legitimate businesses out there that are able to do that, but always verify the business that you're going to buy from. Don't believe in caller ID. We just talked about that. Verify. Secure your devices by using strong passwords and enabling two-factor authentication, which we hadn't talked about yet. But essentially, two-factor authentication is you logging in, and there's going to be a text message, an email, something that's going to be sent to you to another account that you have access to. You're going to gain that number and then verify that with the authentication. Avoid sharing excessive personal information on social media. Review your credit reports for unauthorized activity. Never share your credit or debit cards, numbers, or other financial information via email. Be aware of common scam tactics, promises of easy money, wire transfers, gift cards. Nobody wants a $500 Hibbett gift card, right? I don't think there's a whole lot of people that are going to use a $500 Hibbett gift card. So just be aware of it. Again, be a reasonable person and run that stuff through your brain. Take a couple seconds, take a deep breath. Don't let your emotions get involved. Ask questions, contact somebody else, run it by them. We will always take a report. There's things that we have some reaching ability as far as where we go. Real quick, one thing that we talked about earlier was the home mortgage lock. One of the things right now, I've had 2 of them this year. I've been in law enforcement for 15 years. I've been in investigations for the last 6. In my time as a law enforcement officer, I've never heard of this, but 2 of them this year, we've had what we're calling land scams. Essentially, there's been 2 people in Muscatine County. The first one came in several months ago. I had a gentleman who had his attorney call him and say, "Hey, your property's listed for sale." And he goes, "We're not selling our property." And they're like, "No, your property's for sale." It was a parcel property. There was none of these have involved actual houses. They're just parcels of land. Come to find out, this gentleman's land had been listed for sale. It was a local realtor. Come to find out, 3 local realtors had been contacted by the same person. They gave the same phone number to all 3 realtors. They gave the same email addresses to all 3 realtors. Unfortunately, one of the realtors did list the property. Everything was done as far as what they were to do. DocuSign documents were done, so we have what we would consider a forgery investigation because they were signed fraudulently. The other 2 realtors didn't get around to either making contact or listing, but I was able to talk to one of the other realtors who said, yeah, I actually called this person and said, hey, my broker needs an ID from you. The problem is the parcel owner lives out of state. Okay. So the one realtor gets an ID. It's the state where this subject lives. He sends it to me. I run the file number. The file number comes back fraudulent. It's not on file. Doesn't come back to anybody. So I ran the name and date of birth. Well, the name matches my victim, but the date of birth is 10 days off. So I start looking at it some more. It says my victim's, I think it was 7 feet tall. The only thing that was correct was the name and the address of where my victim lived out of state, which again is something that I could pull up for probably anybody in this room, an address and a name. So a fraudulent ID was created and sent to one of the realtors here in town. The Outlook email addresses that were provided for the husband and wife would have been like jake12345@outlook.com. Something very generic. Again, far reaching. I was able to obtain some bank subpoenas from out of state for institutions out of state. Able to track some stuff back. I got Google search warrant, which was able to get me the phone number the subject used was a Google VoIP number. I had phone calls, text messages. This person or this organization, I should say, I had realtors that left voicemails from Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma, North Carolina. They were calling realtors, and it was all for land. No homes, land only. I was able to track this back. I'm still trying to work to see if we can figure something out. But it looks like it's going to be an NGO out of East Coast state tied to Africa. I mean, we're talking big money business when you're able to do this. In talking with the realtors, it sounds like there was one that actually went through closing in Ankeny area, I believe, and somebody lost out $140,000. So that does happen. So if you have a for sale sign pop up in your yard, another big one is somebody will list your property for a rental on Airbnb, and you'll have somebody show up your house and be like, hey, I'm here to stay the night. That money's already been sent. The other person's already gotten paid. They've got the information they want or the payments. So look out for that. If you need anything from me or Detective Polito, that's our contact information. We do have an app if you want to download that. It's on the Apple App Store and Google Play.